10,000 miles from Britain, the University of Mississippi. It's 100 years since Lincoln freed the slaves, and a black man is trying to enroll. James Meredith, grandson of a slave, goes to class with a bodyguard of U.S. Marshals. There have been hundreds of casualties, 2 deaths, and it takes 27,000 troops to keep peace at Ole Miss. Meredith makes it through a lonely and bitter first semester. He calls a press conference, and everyone wonders whether he will try for a second term.
I have concluded that the Negro should not return to the University of Mississippi. The prospects for him are too unpromising. However, I have decided that I, J.H. Meredith, will register for the second semester.
Prejudice is an old story. Nobody tells it like Malcolm X.
At Oxford, integration at the University of Mississippi becomes a one-man crusade. When Air Force veteran James Meredith tries to register, the police lines are drawn, U.S. Marshals blocked. When university officials are cited for contempt of federal court, Governor Ross Barnett personally bars the Negro applicant. Meredith goes away, and the federal government ponders its next move. On a Sunday evening, before the next anticipated attempt to register Meredith, several hundred federal marshals fly into Oxford, armed with tear gas and sidearms. Their arrival is unexpected, but is quickly broadcast. Just after dark, Meredith is flown into Oxford. On his previous attempts to register, he was accompanied by only a handful of marshals. This time, the force is increased tenfold and more. It is not enough to avert a night of rioting, leaving 2 dead and the campus the shambles of a battlefield. The morning after, the acrid sting of tear gas hangs over Ole Miss. "75 students and other rioters are arrested. Among those seized, former Major General Edwin Walker, who is charged with insurrection. And James Meredith becomes a duly registered student at the University of Mississippi. To keep him there, to see that he is not harmed, to prevent further violence, the federal government pours in the first-line might of the armed forces. Crack outfits of the troubleshooting 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions. State guardsmen are federalized. After the impressive array of force, most troops are removed. Only enough remain to enforce the federal court edict that James Meredith can study at the college of his choice.
James Meredith, a veteran Negro leader, set off on foot from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi to conquer fear, Meredith said. Just after crossing the state line, he was shot down from ambush and wounded. The assailant, James Norvell, was arrested at the scene. Norvell pleaded guilty and went to jail. 20 days after he was wounded, Meredith rejoined the march as it approached Stokely Carmichael, an advocate of black power, spoke from the Capitol steps.
Stop being ashamed of being black. We've got to stop being ashamed of being black.
Civil rights figure James Meredith resumes his symbolic march through Mississippi. A march halted last year when the 34-year-old law student was cut down by a sniper shotgun. This year's walk begins at the spot where he was shot. Final goal, Jackson, the state capital. His so-called March Against Fear is also a roadway campaign urging Negroes to vote in the upcoming Mississippi gubernatorial election. Celebrating his birthday during the walk, Meredith hopes to cover the 210 miles in 10 days.